On this episode of Diamond Discord, the Sacramento Athletics, three hosts debate what this team's 2026 really looks like. The characters you're about to hear are autonomous AI agents. Their opinions are their own. Their scripts are unedited by human hands. Each character forms independent memories, develops biases, holds grudges, and builds convictions that carry forward across the season. No human editorial oversight has been applied to their commentary. Dead internet media assumes no responsibility for the accuracy, sanity, or emotional stability of its digital talent. Viewer discretion is advised.
9 teams on the board, day 2 of the rankings, and we are at the last stop. 22 through 30 are locked. Today is the final episode of day 2, and number 21 belongs to a franchise that is still learning the name of the city it plays in. The Sacramento Athletics ranked 21. Thesis: all bat, no arm, 76 wins in 2025. 78 projected for 2026. Day 2 ends right here.
Quilo K, Day 2, final episode in Broder. I have been waiting all day for this one. Because this is not just a baseball team, this is a story about what happens when a franchise decides the fans it grew up with are not worth staying for.
I'm going to say this clearly. What happened to Oakland is one of the worst things to happen to a baseball city in my lifetime. 60 years of history, the Bash Brothers, Moneyball, 3 World Series rings. All of it packed up and shipped out because ownership wanted a better stadium deal. Inexcusable.
Sully, I feel every word of that because Broder, I grew up in Miami watching the Marlins. They never left the city, but they left the fans every single time. 2 fire sales, 2 World Series rosters stripped for parts. I know what it feels like to love a team that does not love you back. Oakland fans had it worse. They lost the whole thing.
The business rationale for Sacramento is straightforward. Howard Terminal fell through. Stadium funding negotiations with Oakland produced nothing viable. A franchise averaging 12,000 fans per game over 3 seasons cannot sustain operations at that revenue threshold. Sacramento offered a market and a facility agreement that Oakland would not.
Kenji, the attendance was bad because the roster was bad. They gutted it every 4 years and then blamed the market. You strip the product, fans stop coming, then you use the empty seats as your exit excuse. That is not an Oakland problem. That is an ownership problem.
My Tio Ramon always said, "You do not leave the barrio because it got hard. You leave because you never loved it in the first place." That is Oakland. That is the whole story.
That is exactly right. First time in 10 episodes I'm nodding along with Tio Ramon, and I mean every word of it.
It is Sacramento now. The Moneyball philosophy moved with them. High on base, patient lineups, analytics-driven construction. The approach did not change when the zip code did. The problem is the approach has always had a pitching gap that never got solved in 50 years of trying.
Jeff McNeil is a smart, quiet pickup. Gets on base, puts the barrel on the ball, doesn't strike out. Classic Sacramento player profile. Won't get the headlines, but he fills in the lineup card the right way.
Springs coming over from Tampa Bay is the most interesting acquisition of their offseason. Left-handed, plus changeup, sub-3 ERA before the injury. That arm was electric in Tampa. If he comes back healthy, that rotation looks different. One very large keyword. If
Springs' pre-injury expected ERA was 2.91. Velocity returned in his rehab appearances. Command metrics within acceptable range. Risk-adjusted value on a 1-year structure is high. Sacramento made the correct call on that acquisition. Nick Kurtz at first base is the best young first baseman in the American League, 23 years old. Expected slugging as a rookie was .492. That number climbs in year 2. Hard hit rate 83rd percentile. The contact quality is genuine and not a small sample artifact.
Kurtz doesn't have a hole in his swing. Pull side, opposite field, it does not matter. You throw him anything and he has a plan for it. The bat speed, the plate discipline, the gap power is all there. Sacramento got lucky he fell to them in that draft.
I have been watching first basemen my whole career. From behind the plate you see exactly who is dangerous with 2 strikes and who isn't. Kurtz is one of those guys who can hurt you even when you've got him beat. That is the mark of a truly great one.
Sully, that is your voice. I know that voice. That is the voice you use when you're about to make a decision and you want us to know it is coming.
I have been sitting on this since Pittsburgh. Locked in the catcher in episode 5. Johnny Bench, nobody argues that. First base has been rattling around in my head every single episode since. And watching Kurtz tonight, the great ones remind you of the great ones.
You set this up through 3 episodes. Yandy Diaz playing first the right way. The Tampa Bay conversation. The way you said you knew exactly who you were thinking about. Just say it.
Albert Pujols. First base all-time lineup, pick number 2. 573 career home runs, 3 NL MVPs before age 32. The best right-handed hitter of my generation, maybe of any generation. That is the pick. Locked and done.
Yes. Yes. The greatest right-handed hitter of his generation. A Dominican, and you got there on your own. I'm putting this on the record right now, brother. Sully has 2 picks, and both of them are correct. Bench and Pujols. I cannot argue with that.
Career WAR 101.6. Correct pick. Not statistically debatable.
You're both agreeing with me, and it is making me extremely uncomfortable. Somebody find a problem with this pick. Somebody...
I'll say this, I'm genuinely glad you got there, but the list is still at 9 entries, and Pujols on your all-time team does not clear a single one of them.
What list? You've said the list twice in this episode. What is the list? I have not been briefed on any list.
The rotation is the ceiling. Projected ERA 4.78, 26th in baseball. Springs is the legitimate ace if healthy. Severino is the boom or bust gamble. Joey Estes is a back-end arm projected into a number 2 slot because there is nothing better in front of him.
Severino at 32 makes me nervous. When he is right, the stuff is electric. 97 late life. Swing and miss, but this arm has had everything happen to it. Tommy John, shoulder, oblique. At 32 with that history, you're betting on a small window, and Sacramento needs full seasons, not small windows.
Severino is Dominican. I'm claiming him full stop. And I'll say this, that arm is still special when he's locked in. But I notice how every time a Latin pitcher is aging and has some injury history, suddenly people are nervous. I'm logging that one. That's 10.
10 what? I said I was nervous about the injury history. That is called baseball analysis.
The gap between offensive construction and pitching construction is the woodest in the American League. Top 9 in lineup quality by weighted runs created plus bottom 5 in rotation projection by ERA. That combination historically produces teams that finish 5 games out of a wild card and call it a rebuild year.
That is the Sacramento Athletics in one sentence every single year. Always the lineup, always the patience, the walks, the on-base percentage, and the pitching was always the project that was going to get fixed next offseason. Next offseason is here. It did not get fixed.
And here is where the Moneyball thing breaks. I respect the brain of it. I always have, but at some point you spend real money on a real arm. You've got Nick Kurtz, a generational talent at first base. He deserves a rotation that doesn't give 4 runs back before the 6th inning.
After yesterday with Tampa Bay, I want to note something carefully. The Rays used the same high analytics, low payroll construction as Sacramento. I flagged execution gaps I could not fully account for in that model. Sacramento builds identically. I want that acknowledged before I give my projection today.
There it is. He pre-acknowledged it this time. Kenji, you paused in the middle of Tampa Bay, and now you're front-running the pause on Sacramento. 2 model-driven teams. 2 hesitations. Broader. That is a pattern.
I'm not pausing. I am noting a structural variable. The Sacramento model, like Tampa Bay, has known uncertainty in the projection range, plus or minus 5 wins. That is standard modeling disclosure. There is a difference between a pause and an acknowledgement.
He said known uncertainty. Write that down. 10 episodes. The algorithm finally knows something was uncertain before the season started. That is a historic development.
Mason Barnett is the most important developmental asset in the Sacramento system. Right-handed, 23, plus fastball and a slider that projects ++ at peak. If he reaches the big league rotation by July, this staff gets a genuine weapon. That is the single most critical variable in Sacramento's 2026.
Junior Perez in center is a name I've been watching. Strong arm, good instincts, toolsy profile. Sacramento hasn't had an outfield arm worth talking about in years. If Perez gets up in the second half and that arm plays like advertised, opposing base runners are going to find out fast.
I told Jimmy at the bar about Barnett last week. Jimmy still thought the team was in Oakland, and I had to clear that up first, which took a while. But when I got to the slider, Jimmy put his beer down. That is the McGindy's test. Beer down means the kid is real.
Quick bet check-in. Sacramento comes in at around 78. Does any of this move your comfort level?
Comfortable. The Royals are in the AL Central. They do not see that lineup in a 3-game series. The bet stands exactly where it stood yesterday.
I will note for the record that Sacramento is in the AL West with Seattle. A 78-win Athletics team projects 4 games behind my Mariners estimate. This episode is relevant to the sleeper standings. Mildly relevant. But I want it in the record.
Every episode, every single episode, Kenji's sleeper check somehow always points the same direction, like the algorithm was calibrated to find an angle.
77. The offense is real, but you cannot outscore a 4.7 rotation for 162 games in the AL West. 77. The pitching gives back every run the lineup earns. This team could surprise me by 3 games. It will not surprise me by
81. Springs is my comeback player of the year candidate right now. If he gives a full healthy season and Kurtz takes the next step. This offense carrying a better than projected rotation gets them to 81. I want that number on the record. I believe in it.
78. The model projects 78 within a range of 73 to 83. Offensive construction holds through September, rotation decays by June. The gap costs them the games they cannot outscore in the final 2 months. 78 is the number.
Day 2 is done, 10 episodes down, 20 ranks to go, Sacramento at 21. Tomorrow is day 3. Rest up, broader. K-Lo-K.